Alright, this is what I intend to show, and I will in great detail, that light can be accelerated. Light is a particle. Boson charge carriers I will show, which are little filaments of white particles. The Higgs impact fields, which are round disks of polarized particles that head those white boson filaments. I will show a reverse spinning particle, and it could possibly be antimatter because of the characteristics it displays, and what it actually ends up emitting will astound you. Sublight particle field is what it will emit, which is a mini particle smaller than light itself. The atomic model does not work, and the differences that I will recommend to the atomic model make every single electronic interaction work, and every single electronic interaction is energy. It's all it is. And it accounts for gravity, it accounts for anti-gravity, it accounts for light, and the speed of light is not set. It can accelerate, it can slow down. Light is a particle. All this will be shown very shortly. This one shot says it all. Einstein was wrong. Light accelerating, light being a particle, light being atomized, light in the atmosphere glowing is ether. And now let's go into the details. Alright, this is going to be a very simple explanation showing that Einstein was wrong about what he said, and that even the current scientists are all wrong about the fact that ether exists. These little particles that are glowing here are ether, and I'm going to explain ether in great detail. It exists not only on Earth, but in space. It is the particles that are in space that are literally electrons. Now, this is a pulsed red laser. It comes at a certain frequency. Frequencies are determined like this. The very long ones are red. The very short ones are in your upper regions into your blue, your green, your blue, and so forth. And that determines the impact of this particular wave. And it is a wave, looked at from the side, but it is also a particle. They spin with a right-hand spin. So you look at it as a wave, but it is also a particle. So let's see what happens when we take this wave that would just consistently flow through the air like this, crushing all the waves in front of it and making them glow as luminescent corpuscles. These would be the same things that would attach to you in static electricity in the air. They're free-floating electrons. Now, if we force this wave of just nice pleasant wave flowing through here into a restriction called a venturi, it will accelerate. Okay, and I want to explain something about this. Rodney Warren is an experimenter, and as a chance, accidental product of his experimentation, he accelerated light. Now, nobody understood this. He was just doing this, and he's showing these crazy looking pictures, and still nobody seems to believe it, but it is true. And when I saw it, I got a hold of Rodney, and he did experiments for me and for himself, obviously, for a year or more. And he had the most fabulous pictures. I did the same things, but nobody could beat Rodney's pictures. So these are all the shots that he took, and this is in midair. And I'm going to show you his process, and it is you can do it yourself, and it costs you less than $50 to get the equipment to do this. If you have a cell phone, you can take the pictures with the cell phone. That's what these are taken with. Now, I believe he took videos, and then he trimmed them down and got the shots he wanted. I mean, he must have spent, I can't imagine the time he spent on this. I really can't. Because I spent a lot of time myself, and I just did not get anywhere near what he's got. So let's talk about what he did get. These waves came through here, nice and comfortable, and zoom, zoom. And then all of a sudden, what Rodney did was he wanted to do the slit experiments. He was going to do a single slit, double slit, so forth. What he used was nails. Literally, he used construction nails to make a slit. He said, well, I got nails. He put them in some kind of foam or something, which I'll show you how I did mine. And then he shot the laser into that, and here's what he ended up with. Now, what has he got? What happened? Well, you can see the wave has stretched. Obviously, it's being pulled through this venturi, which is what the venturi does. They were used in the old carbureted cars, and the gas would come through a restriction, and you would adjust the restriction how fine you wanted it to atomize the gas. And when it went through the restrictions, just like a nozzle in your hose, and it came out the other side, spraying like crazy. That's called atomization. And what we have here is called plasma. It's plasmatization. And this is light. Now we know it started out as as red laser light. No question whatsoever. As it accelerated, that's the beam. This is the only beam that comes out of there. This big wave is only a result of this beam crashing through the ether. And this is ether. Don't say anything, it's ether. You have gases in the air, molecules all over the place, but in those gases you have ether as well, which is free electrons. And free electrons exist everywhere. And as they collect on you, they are the static that gets on you. You touch ground, you get a little spark. That's these free electrons. That's you picked up one of these, because they wanted to go on you more than they wanted to be in the air. You became attractive to those particles, and that happens by having certain types of fabrics on you, dryness and so forth in the air. And it's the same reason that lightning happens. It's just an excessive amount of electrons want to get from there to ground, which is always, always, always a positive. Now you say, oh, no, it's not a positive, it's neutral. No, it isn't, it's positive. If you take any electron, it will try to force itself into ground. I don't care what you say, it's true. Electricity, you put it near the ground, and go right into the ground. Ground is positive, electricity is negative. So we are flowing these particles into the ground after they collect on you and into the ground. They float here and they'll drift into the ground. They'll do all that stuff. They'll hit the plants and they'll grow the plants and do all that stuff. But light, as it's accelerated through the air, is nothing more than a particle like this, only it is now pushing everybody out of its way. And these particles own a very, very, very large region around them. You have no idea how big that region is. You look up the 21 centimeter rule and 21 centimeter line for hydrogen. They could control huge, huge regions around them. When you crush into them, they get excited. Now, the harder you crush, the more excited they get. And in this case, they are getting excited as they can possibly get. They're pushing. They say, well, what's going on up in front? Somebody's slowing down. I say, yeah, they can't get through here. And they said, well, get out of my way. And I say, I can't. And they start fighting each other. And what happens after they start? They glow. I cannot explain that, but I can show you the glow in pictures that Rodney took. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, they start to stack up here. And when they stack up, these negative particles are pushing against other negative particles. When that happens, they glow. Negative against negative makes it glow. It's an energy happening. It just happens. That, again, is mysterious still to me. But we do know that they repel each other. And when you repel something, you create heat. And that's what's happening here. And it turns into plasma. So they're all so tight and touching each other where they don't want to be, because they're repelling each other. They both are saying, I'm negative, you're negative, get the hell away from me. So I got a guy behind me, I can't get him off of me. You got 6 guys around you, I got them everywhere. What do you want me to do? He said, well, I'm just going to be glowing here. And he said, I'm going to glow too. We said, let's all glow together. So they all start glowing. But they force themselves through this venturi, which is 2 round drums. Poof. And when they come out, they're so hatred of each other in negativeness. Get away, and then, boom, they go crazy. Now, they set up these patterns based on a whole batch of them. Will say, get away from us, we're all going to come in a line. And they say, okay, you guys stay with me, we'll stay in a line, we'll push the next guys away. And they do that line. That's your interference patterns. And then at the very end, there's nobody to corral them in. They go flying way off to the outsides. So that is the interaction of light, which was a wave. Nice, happy little wave, everything. But, you come into something like this, you got an issue. Now, the same thing if you hit against a wall, I'm sure it would have to have some effect like that. Now, here's the key. This is where it gets really interesting. We're seeing the red light accelerate. I don't care what anybody says in the world. You can't tell me that's not accelerating. That is accelerating. So Einstein is wrong about that. Absolutely. Now, because it slows down in water too. And based on everything that he said, based on the speed of light and that it's not a particle, everything's messed up. Everything's wrong in physics. So we got to start over with everything. And I don't care what you say, that is a fact. Not a thing works in physics. Now, that particle is coming through here, and it's accelerating. It's getting faster. And it's displaying itself as a particle. And it's displaying itself as a particle in the air. All right, so now we got a whole new issue to deal with. Now we're seeing it turn white. How did that happen? It was red, it turns white. Now, coming out of here, what's going to happen is it going to stay white? Well, let's see. All right, this is right above the accelerator looking down. It was white, then it starts to turn into this yellowish color and so forth. And then all these those are the particles spinning away. They're crossing each other's paths, and then they start to straighten out. And then this happens. All right, this is where it really starts to get interesting. We're looking into that white light. Now that white light in the science realm, they call that Cherenkov radiation, which is an accelerated light. They call them electron neutrinos and so forth. Now, normally they wouldn't say they're accelerated, but they might. Normally they would say they're coming into a denser medium and they're making electron showers. And I'll show you all the evidence of what they say about it. So they are coming in from the acceleration. These little tiny, these little white spits there, I don't know if you can see those or not, but those little white stripes are what they call bosons. You say, what is a boson? Well, a boson is a charged particle carrier, which is what we have here. Light is a charged particle. Nobody would disagree with that. Light has some form of a charge, and now I'm saying it's a particle, and I think they're going to start agreeing with that. It is obviously a particle. Now, so it's a charged particle, and it's a carrier. What does that mean? It carries a field around it. And that's exactly what happens. As soon as it comes out of this acceleration phase, and it only takes a very short while. It's so sizzling fast here that it cannot interact immediately. Now, right here, it crashes in to the ether that I talked about, all the particles and gases of the space. And it is a spinning, sizzling little spinning like crazy negative particle, charged particle carrier boson. Now, the Higgs field is there. Now, what's a Higgs field? A Higgs field is a reaction to the boson, which is the charged particle, which is a negative slamming into the negativenesses that the atmosphere presents to it. So when it does, and it slams in here spinning like crazy, as its negativeness spins in circles, it goes negative, 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 and it sends out all of these rings of interacting particles that are in the air. Tiny, 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 tiny particles. And they interact and create this magnetic field surrounding that charged particle spinning negative carrier. That's why these different polarities show up, all these different dots and these circles. They're negative electrons pushing each other away from the next realm. Get away from me, get away from me, get away. And they go out here, get away this way, get away this way. And so you see them separating. That is what you're looking at. They are the reaction to the extreme interaction of a highly accelerated charged particle called the boson. So the Higgs field sets up around it. That collapses almost instantly, and I will show you that. Now, what is occurring here? We have two other anomalies that we have to look at. One of them is this, which is this purple-looking crushed field. Now, how did it get crushed? I see a field here, and I see a field here impinging on its roundness, crushing it. So What would it do to that field? Well, it's doing exactly what you would expect it to. It's giving it density. It's crushing it into more excitation. Right? They are forcing it to become more excited than its neighbors. Therefore, it exhibits a higher frequency color, which is what we're seeing. That's exactly what you expect. That's what we're seeing. This is exactly what you expect. That's exactly what we're seeing. This is Cherenkov radiation, which is accelerated radiation into a glowy white. You use it in nuclear power plants. Exactly what you expect. Exactly what we're seeing. Now, what don't you expect, and what are we seeing? That right there. That I did not expect. And when I saw it, I could not understand it. But now I do, I think. I hope. There's a thing called the right-hand rule. And the right-hand rule means as these particles come out of here, they are spinning to the right. They're spinning like this direction here. It spins, spin, spin, spin. Now, if it spin backwards, like this, going into the ether of the negativeness, it rips itself through. And it compresses its magnetic field. And that's what's happening here. I think that is running backwards. Now, if this goes forward, it slips off and everybody slides off to the side and they create these patterns around this spinning particle. If it goes backwards, it is like drawing its negativeness into itself, is all I can see. Now, I can't really show you how it works on paper. I really can't. I've tried to understand it, and I sort of do. It's almost like if you took a screw and you have a forward screw threaded. It's supposed to spin to the right, and you go in and it spins nice, and you screw it right in. Well, if you try to turn it to the left and force it through that same medium, which is the right-hand rule medium, you're gonna have to force it through, rip the threads right out of it to force it through. That's what we're seeing here. It's ripping the threads right out of the magnetism of the ether, and it's collecting it into itself. It came from the same source. They all came through as red light. They all came through as red light. Nobody can deny that. It comes out of here. They're all coming out as particles, and that is from the red light, but it is exactly opposite of these. It has the opposite magnetic interaction in this space. So that leaves me with one possibility, and I'm just saying it's possible. It's, gigantically possible as far as I can see. It came out of here. It's the same particle. It's spinning reverse is what I believe. It has no magnetic field, or it has a reverse magnetic field, actually, is what I believe. These have the standard magnetic field. That makes that antimatter. It's the same matter, only it has a reverse polarity, and it's displaying exactly opposite. So that is what is the nature of antimatter. Now, what would happen to that particle as it collapses? Well, I have actually got video of that. Now, this is the only shot I found like this, and I worked with Rodney for well over a year, I'm sure. I can't remember exactly, but I know gotta be way over a year. And he sent me thousands and thousands of shots, and absolutely phenomenal work he did. And I could have never done the work I needed to do, examining these and trying to understand them, and still done all of the research. So I'll show you how you can do it yourself, because it's very simple. It was just a chance encounter that turned out to be, I think, one of the most important things in physics. But this is that white particle. That's that white particle. What is it doing here? It interacted with one of these fields, and it looks like it's setting up a field. I don't know if that's setting up a field or exactly what happened here, but it certainly, something happened, and it dumped off this mini light trumpet, I call it. It's a little trumpet-looking thing that interacted when, I believe this is the antimatter, hit this. And whatever this is, I mean, I don't have words for these things, but I see this here, and I see a dark spot above it. Is it sucking off some of this magnetic field? I don't know. Then I see it here and I see a dark spot. I don't know. These are the things I have no clue about. But I can tell you one thing right now. They all came through as light. There's a particle in the center here that is creating these disks. That is some kind of a particle, and it created this. So to me, that says that if this was the same as this originally, and it turned white, it could be antimatter, and then as it interacted with matter, it turned into whatever that is. That's a pretty circuitous route here, and I have no real answers for this. But it should certainly be looked at. And it is a very simple thing. I'm going to show you how you can do it yourself, and I'm going to show you the actual particles now. Okay, now I have a lot of videos on this, and they've been ignored, but hopefully this is, sooner or later I have to take this into consideration because it deserves consideration. That's the accelerator. All right, you see them all blobbed here, the white, crazy looking stuff coming out of it. That's chaos. Within a very short time, it's still a little bit glowy, then it starts to slow down, it gets darker and darker. But in the meantime, you get this step-down effect, and I cannot explain that, although it looks like what happens in the old stagecoaches. As the spin slows down, it becomes visible, and then it just drifts backwards or that type of thing. But this is what you see here. This is extremely interesting because anytime you see the dark and the white, you know you have energy and no energy. And then you have this spike sticking up, this spike sticking down. Now, I think this, I'm going to just throw out a big couple of words here. Don't mean much to you if you don't care about the real deep physics, but it could be that electrons work on a principle called capacitive and inductive reactance. What that means is a capacitance means there's a certain area that will suck up all of the electrons it can take. And when it does, and then it stops taking them, there's a collapse, and it induces a current, a big magnetic field, and it collapses, and it reverses that magnetic field, and it actually exceeds the input in voltage. It can exceed it. I've had it exceeded up by 10 times at least on a 12-volt solenoid, putting in 12 volts DC, and when you cut the circuit off, it pulses backwards because the magnetic field collapses, and it would pulse back 120 volts. And I did that to my wife one day. I told her to hold on to the solenoid. Don't worry, it's only 12 volts. And I did it, and sure enough, the solenoid worked. I said, oh, good, and I let go of the electricity, and she went, wah! She jumped, and I said, whoa. And then I started thinking about, yeah, it's the reverse EMF. It can exceed the input voltage 10 times. And that's what happened, and it gave her a shock. And so I learned something. Sorry, honey. Okay, now, just so you understand, the electrons, or whatever they are, the light particles, have the same appearance coming out of green lasers and so forth as they do out of the red laser. Now, they don't collapse into this form for quite a longer distance in the green. The red, they drop pretty quick. In the green, they get out a lot further. And we had a fellow that did some experiments tying them both together, and it became obvious what happens. Okay, what I was showing, they would call it electron neutrino, electron showers. And that's the voltage of the electron coming in, and when it collides with this other medium that it's hitting, which creates the Higgs fields, which that's what I'm calling these, it starts to break into these fields, and that is what we see. That's what we see. So they can say whatever they want, but I'm seeing Cherenkov radiation, which is almost always extremely brilliant white, from the electron shower produced by an electron neutrino event, produces multiple cones and therefore a diffuse ring and a detector ring. That's what we're seeing. All right, this is where it gets a little bit complicated, so I need you to pay close attention, but this will explain why physics is wrong about this. What is an electron neutrino? I showed you what I claim is an electron neutrino, and what they claim is an electron neutrino, creating electron showers, and I believe that's the same thing. So what do they say about electron neutrinos? That's the VE, which I showed you, cascading into the other media which created the Higgs field, so that's the VE, is a subatomic lepton elementary particle. Leptons are smaller than anything, they say, which has no net electric charge. I totally disagree with that, and you saw the fields that surround that particle. So I don't have an electron neutrino, but I'm showing exactly what they asked for, and I do have an electric charge, and I do have a particle. So together with the electron, it forms the first generation of leptons. Well, I think it is the electron. Hence the name electron neutrino. It was first hypothesized by Wolfgang Pauli, 1930, to account for missing momentum and missing energy in beta decay. So, what's the missing energy? What is beta decay? What are they missing? Well, listen to this. Beta decay is this. This is where the big, huge mistake comes in. In nuclear physics, beta decay is a type of radioactive decay in which a beta ray, which is a fast energetic electron, or positron, and a neutrino, no, it's the electron, forget the neutrino, are emitted from an atomic nucleus. A neutrino is an electron, only at high speed. For example, beta decay of a neutron, why would a neutron decay? Transforms it into a proton. How could it possibly do that? By the emission of an electron. Where did the electron come from? It's a neutron. Or conversely, a proton is converted into a neutron by the emission of a positron, thus changing the nuclide type. Neither the beta particle nor its associated neutron exists within the nucleus prior to the beta decay. Where do they come from? They're created in a decay process. Why would they decay like that? Why even would a neutron be there? And listen to this, what they say. By this process, unstable atoms attain a more stable ratio of protons to neutrons. Why are neutrons? You could throw 10,000 neutrons in there, it wouldn't make any difference. They're neutral. Why is it decaying because there's too many neutrons? That's ridiculous. The probability of a nuclide decaying due to beta and other forms of decay is determined by its nuclear binding energy. Exactly. You have too many electrons packed in against these positives. That's all it is. So you're supposed to have 10 of positives, you get 10 of the negatives, and then you get 11, and you get 12, and then you get 13, and then they start breaking apart, and you get radioactivity because they want to get out of there. The other guy said, get out of here, you got too many. Well, what are we going to do? Throw one of them out. And so, well, what do we throw out? I don't know, just start shaking until you get a guy to leave. And that, boing, they go flying. That is what we're looking right there, the E minus. All right, you saw what I showed you in the experiments. Pulse red laser is a Bosch GLM 15. I will actually show you the stuff. This is extremely simple. It's Venturi. It's two nails, a nail here and a nail there. The light is from the laser, comes through here, and is stretched and turns into plasma right here, and then it sprays all over the place. Now, what we saw as it slows down is this particle here. Now, I don't know if they normally have this kind of energy inside of them, or is this energy exists as they slow down? Is it just like this all the time and they don't have this? I don't know. But I do know that this is the normal configuration of these light corpuscles. And when they get invaded and crushed, they glow. That I can't explain either. But I do know that it's magnetism, that this is a negative region that another negative region forces into, and they bounce against each other. And the harder they bounce, the more impact. It's just like a car. The harder it hits a wall, the more crushing it does. The harder they hit each other, the more they expand or compress and cause excitation and light and vibration in the medium that they exist. Everybody starts to glow. And the harder you push through there, the more glow you get. That is, it's a little bit mysterious. I can't tell you why. But it's seen. We know the light happens. We know the heat happens. We know that all these things are occurring. Now, so you know that you can shoot this light through that Venturi. It's extremely simple. And you can use these kind of light pens here. There's a red, green, and blue. And then this is the GLM 15 here. I'll show you up close. All right, this is a GLM 15 Bosch laser. It's a regular construction laser. It's nothing fancy. You see? And then you've got the nails. This is construction nails. You know, you cut the tops of them off and you just get a couple of pins. You put them anywhere you want on these foam blocks. Put them right up close, put them wider, and you can put 2, 3, 4, 5, you do anything you want. Then, of course, you want to shroud around the outside of these things so that all you have is your slot. So if you had 3 nails, it would be a double slit. And the third nail would come up here, and then you would have shrouding from there back and this way so that it wouldn't interfere around. It would just be what you're hitting here with the laser. And definitely the distance away, the width of the nails, it determines what kind of characteristics it's going to have. And then I have prisms, but again, I really didn't do much with the light experiments because Rodney's stuff I couldn't even get close, and I just didn't have time. Like I say, I have no idea how much time you spent, but all I can say is thank you, Rodney, because without this, there is no way anybody would ever know this. And it was very, very fortunate what you did, my friend, and I thank you for it. Now, I do want to make one last statement. With Rodney's Venturi here, I don't see any reason that this couldn't be within a vacuum chamber, and this could be highly excited protons of heavy hydrogens shooting through a Venturi, creating plasma. If you can create plasma, you can create fusion. But creating the plasma, they can't do. They have to do all these magnetic containments and this and that. They take more energy to create the plasma than they get back from the fusion. This takes no energy whatsoever. This is strictly a mechanical device that's passive. It just sits there. If this could create plasma and then recombine and give off the extra electron activity, the energy, you could possibly have cold fusion. This is fusion that could even be in very, very small packages. Because you don't have to accelerate these particles, I don't think, as extreme as you do with a laser. Although I could be wrong. But it certainly demands attention here. We have a disaster going on our planet. And this is something that might have possible. I've been posting about this for a long time. That this is a possible energy solution they should be looking at. I tried contacting MIT and Stanford and Harvard and all of them, and nobody will even respond. And then one guy just said, "Oh, I could be anything. I don't have time," and he hung up on it. It's I don't think there's any interest to do this, and from my way of thinking, I can't understand why. I don't see any reason that this does not have merit. So I would like to see somebody respond, or somebody talk to somebody to get somebody to respond, because my voice is unheard. I've been screaming, and I don't think they like screamers. So I'm totally unheard. I know that's a fact, because the only people I hear from are people that have no ability to influence anything. Just a fact. Nobody has come around to show any interest to help, to push this forward into the realm of true scientific exploration. And I've had them say, "Oh yes, it's fantastic, I gotta go." I don't know whether they feel that it's not valid, or they feel that they're not going to get anything for themselves out of it. But it's not really working for me. I don't really have a lot of respect for that kind of attitude, whatever the reason. This is science. This is reality. This should be looked at. And I have so many things like this at Mud Fossil University because I have so many truly invested student learners. They're student teachers. All you people that are listening in on this and doing this, I'm getting most of my stuff from you. I look around, I see this and I see that, but you ask questions. How's this work? What about that? And what do you see here? What are you doing there? And I get it all the time, every day. And I can see from my work over the years relations to these things you're asking that have been totally misunderstood. And I'm telling you, they're misunderstood. You can say anything you want, but I challenge anybody to go against anything that I said That's what I want. That's what I'm asking for. That's what I'm begging for. And it has not happened. So, contact me, ROGER at mudfossils.com. And you can come up here on the website. Here it is. Mud Fossil University. And this is up here. We have the DNA tests of all of the stuff that we did in the research of the mud fossils. And then all of the energy work and so forth is up there. Everything's up there. And all you have to do is go from here or from there up to the YouTube site where you are now. All right, so I think I've shown that there's a big difference as to what is being taught and what needs to be looked at. And I think it needs to be looked at. You could just laugh it off and go about your business and say that neutrons turn into protons and electrons, and why would they do that? Now this is where it really gets nonsensical. Beta decay consequence of the weak force characterized by relatively lengthy decay times nuclear up quarks, down quarks, this and bosons and this and that. And it goes on to be really very silly because they just never got to the correct starting point. There is no neutrons, and light can be accelerated. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. Einstein was wrong. Light's a particle. The redshift is light slowing down. It's not speeding up now. The outer edges of the solar system, of the galaxies now and the universe are speeding away so fast they say they exceed the speed of light, which they say can't happen. And how would they start speeding up and running away from each other anyway? It's just absolute nonsense. It's slowing down. It left there at 1,000 miles, 1,000 frequencies in a second, and it hits here at 950 frequencies a second. It slowed down. It didn't stretch because they're moving away from us. It slowed down because it is being attracted backwards from its original source and the things that it passes by as it comes to us. So that's nonsense. Okay, I did a video called Einstein Has No Clothes On, which means the emperor has no clothes. Einstein's relativity work is a magnificent mathematical garb which fascinates, dazzles, and makes people blind to the underlying errors. The theory is like a beggar clothed in purple whom ignorant people take for a king. Its exponents are brilliant men, but they are metaphysicists rather than scientists. Think of this. Albert Einstein says E equals mc squared. Now, he said that light has no mass, which is m in this equation, E equals mc squared. So if m is 0, how much energy does light have? Think that one over. The emperor truly has no clothes, and that statement is fact.